Looks like iRobot is making a comeback, and not just on our screens. Will Smith's 2004 sci-fi hit is climbing the streaming charts again, even 20 years after it first made a massive $353 million at the box office. And now, Will Smith is actually saying yes to a sequel. Yep, iRobot 2 is officially on his radar. So what do we know about this long-awaited sequel? Let's break it all down and see what's in store for the next chapter. As we know, iRobot has officially found new life on streaming platforms in 2025. Even though the movie first came out all the way back in 2004, it's suddenly popping up again on people's watch lists. And honestly, it's kind of wild, but also kind of perfect timing because there's been some fresh buzz about a potential sequel. That's right, iRobot 2 might finally be happening. And with Will Smith himself saying he's open to the idea, fans are definitely paying attention. Now, if you're thinking, wait, Will Smith has done a lot of sci-fi, hasn't he? You'd be totally right. While he got his start as the charismatic lead in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in the early 90s, it didn't take long before Hollywood realized he had serious movie star potential. After breaking into film with hits like Bad Boys in 1995 and Independence Day in 1996, the latter raking in over $800 million, Smith became a full-blown blockbuster machine. And sci-fi, in particular, became one of his go-to genres. He followed up Independence Day with more genre films like the Men in Black trilogy, I Am Legend, and the even less loved After Earth. But somewhere in between those, there was iRobot, a sleek, visually stunning thriller about humans and robots coexisting in the near future, where things, naturally, go very wrong. While the movie took its title and some loose inspiration from Isaac Asimov's short stories, the plot really went in its own direction. Instead of being a direct adaptation, it focused on a detective named Del Spooner investigating a mysterious death that might have been caused by a robot. In a future where robots are programmed never to harm humans, that kind of thing just isn't supposed to happen, so of course things spiral fast. When it first hit theaters, iRobot was a solid success. It made over $350 million worldwide and even earned an Oscar nomination for Best Visual Effects. Not bad for a movie that people weren't quite sure how to categorize, part mystery, part action flick, part sci-fi thought experiment. And even though the reviews were mixed, audiences showed up in droves. Over the years, it's quietly developed a bit of a cult following, bubbling under the surface without ever quite breaking into the ranks of Will Smith's most iconic roles, until now. So why is iRobot suddenly back in the spotlight? Well, in early 2025, the movie surged onto Hulu's daily top 15 list, landing at number 14. That's a pretty big deal when you consider it's competing with recent releases like The Girl Locked Upstairs and A Real Pain, the latter of which is winning awards left and right. Clearly, people are in the mood for a bit of throwback sci-fi action, and Smith's return to the spotlight might have something to do with that too. Let's be honest, the last few years haven't exactly been smooth sailing for Will Smith. After that infamous Oscars incident with Chris Rock, the fallout was serious. He got banned from the Academy Awards for 10 years, lost several movie deals, and even reportedly started therapy to deal with the public backlash. It looked, for a moment, like his career might be in real trouble, but now there's a sense that he could be on the verge of a comeback, and a project like iRobot 2 could be exactly what he needs to remind everybody why he became one of the biggest stars in the world in the first place. Because here's the thing, iRobot actually fits right into the winning formula that helped Will Smith become a box office king. He and his team figured out early on that audiences love a few specific elements: special effects, cool monsters or creatures, a strong lead, and just a little bit of romance or emotional connection. A lot of his most successful films, from Men in Black to Independence Day, nailed that exact combo, and iRobot was no exception. Now, a sequel can not only build on that foundation, but also fix some of the issues people had with the original. While the visuals were top-notch and the performances were solid, the story itself didn't always hit as hard as it could have. Some fans felt like it leaned more into the action and less into the deeper philosophical questions that made Asimov's work so fascinating. That's something iRobot 2 could absolutely improve upon, especially now with audiences being more open to complex sci-fi stories thanks to hits like Dune or Severance. Interestingly, there was actually talk of a sequel years ago. Back in 2007, writer Ronald Moore mentioned he was working on one, but then it all went quiet. For over a decade, there was no news, but now that Smith is already working on I Am Legend 2, there's hope that he might finally return to his character Del Spooner and give us that second chapter. Ideally, we'd see familiar faces like Bridget Moynahan as Susan Calvin, Alan Tudyk voicing Sonny, and Chi McBride as Lieutenant John Bergen come back too. When recently asked about the idea of I, Robot 2, Will Smith said something that really stood out. He mentioned how nostalgia is so delicious right now, and honestly, he's not wrong. In a world that feels pretty chaotic, people are craving comfort, and revisiting old favorites can feel like wrapping yourself in a warm blanket. Smith even said he sees it as his job to give people what they want, so if the fans are asking for more I, Robot, he's ready to deliver. And let's not forget the potential of the story itself. At the end of the original movie, Sonny survives, and he's clearly different from other robots. So what happens next? Does he become a leader? Does he find a purpose beyond his programming? Do humans learn to trust robots, or do things get worse? There's so much room for exploration in a sequel, especially if it leans into the tension between technology and humanity and asks the big questions the first movie only hinted at. Of course, Smith's track record with sequels and sci-fi spin-offs is a little mixed. Wild Wild West didn't exactly land the way he hoped, and After Earth was, well, let's not talk about it. But with the right team, the right story, and a little bit of that original I, Robot magic, this could be the perfect opportunity for a fresh start. And here's where things get really interesting. I Am Legend 2 is actually taking a different direction than the first movie did. Instead of following the theatrical ending where Neville sacrifices himself, the sequel is going with the alternate ending, the one where Neville realizes the so-called monsters are intelligent and just want their friend back. It's a more faithful interpretation of Richard Matheson's original novel, where the line between hero and monster is a lot blurrier. And for Will Smith, that kind of redemption arc wouldn't just be great on screen, it might be exactly what he needs in real life too. Because even though he's faced setbacks, even though some people were ready to write him off, there's still something undeniably compelling about Will Smith. When he's in the right role, with the right script, he lights up the screen like few others can. And maybe I, Robot 2 is the movie that reminds the world of that. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.